Glory sat in stunned silence. His words stung, but they also revealed a truth she had been avoiding. Peter didn't respect her. He saw her success as a threat rather than a blessing, and he was willing to destroy their marriage over it. The situation worsened a few weeks later when Peter did the unthinkable. One evening, Glory returned home from an event to find him sitting in the living room with a woman she had never seen before. The woman, dressed in a tight-fitting gown and heavy makeup, was laughing as she leaned close to him, her hand resting on his arm. On the table before them was a tray of food Glory had prepared for a client. "Peter, what is going on here?" Glory asked, her voice trembling with anger and confusion. Peter didn't even look ashamed. "This is Sister Abigail," he said casually. "She is my new wife." The words hit her like a punch to the gut. "Your new wife?" she repeated, her voice breaking. "Peter, what are you talking about? I'm your wife." Peter leaned back, his expression smug. "You refused to submit to me, so you forfeited your position. Abigail understands the role of a godly wife. She supports me in my ministry." Glory couldn't believe what she was hearing. Her vision blurred with tears as she looked at the woman who had invaded her home and her husband. Laughing and eating the food she had spent hours preparing, she felt her knees weaken, and she sank into a chair, overwhelmed by betrayal. "Peter, how could you do this? To me? To our daughter?" she asked, her voice trembling. "This is God's will," he said simply, as if that excused everything. Glory wept that night, her tears soaking the pillow as she lay awake, replaying the events over and over in her mind. She had given everything to this man, her love, her trust, her support, and he had repaid her with cruelty and betrayal. It was a turning point, one that forced her to confront a truth she had been avoiding. She could no longer stay in this marriage. The following morning, she confronted Peter one last time. "I will not share my home with another woman," she said firmly. "If you insist on this, I will leave." Peter smirked, clearly thinking she was bluffing. "Do as you like," he said. "Abigail and I will manage just fine." That was the moment Glory realized she had nothing left to fight for. Peter had made his choice, and now it was time for her to make hers. She packed her belongings, took her daughter, and walked out of the house with her head held high. Though her heart was heavy with pain, she knew she was making the right decision. Walking away from Peter wasn't easy for Glory. Though her heart was heavy with betrayal, she found solace in the arms of her daughter and the success she had built with her own hands. The night she left, she moved into a small but comfortable apartment in a quieter part of Lagos, determined to start fresh. The past few years had been a storm, but she was ready to rebuild her life with a clear purpose: to give her child the best future possible and to live for herself again. Her catering business continued to thrive, gaining momentum as her reputation spread. She was soon known as the Queen of Lagos cuisine, a name coined by a prominent journalist who attended one of the high-profile events she catered. Politicians, celebrities, and business moguls clamored to hire her, and her diary filled up months in advance. She invested her earnings wisely, expanding her operations into a full-fledged company with a staff that adored her for her humility and kindness. For the first time in years, Glory felt free. She didn't have to tiptoe around a man who dismissed her efforts. She was in control of her own destiny, and she found joy in the little moments: her daughter's laughter, a quiet evening with a good book, or the satisfaction of seeing her clients rave about her work. Life was finally moving in the direction she had always dreamed. Meanwhile, Peter's life was unraveling. Word spread quickly through the church community about his actions. When members learned he had brought another woman into the home and abandoned his responsibilities to his family, the outrage was swift. Even Mama Chica, who had once been his staunch supporter, could no longer defend him. "This is not the behavior of a man of God," she said during a heated church council meeting. "Peter has brought shame to his family and to this congregation." The church leadership decided to strip him of his position as youth pastor. It was a painful blow to Peter, who had built his identity around his role in the ministry. He tried to defend himself, blaming Glory for disrespecting him and refusing to submit as a wife should, but his excuses fell on deaf ears. The congregation had seen enough of his true character. Abigail, the woman Peter had brought into their home, didn't stick around for long either. When it became clear that Peter had no money or prospects, she packed her things and left without a word. Peter, once so full of confidence and pride, found himself alone in a house he could no longer afford. The landlord, tired of Peter's empty promises, eventually evicted him. As Peter's life crumbled, Glory's continued to soar. Her business reached new heights, and she began mentoring young women who wanted to start their own ventures. She spoke openly about her journey, sharing her struggles and triumphs to inspire others. Her story resonated deeply with many, particularly women who felt trapped in difficult marriages or unappreciated for their contributions. Glory's courage became a beacon of hope. One day, she was invited to speak at an event organized by a prominent women's organization in Lagos. As she stood before the audience, holding her daughter's hand, she reflected on how far she had come. Her voice was steady and full of conviction as she shared her story, sparing no detail about the challenges she had faced. "I stayed for too long because I thought it was what God wanted," she said. "But I've learned that God doesn't want us to endure suffering at the hands of someone who doesn't value us. He gives us the strength to rise, to rebuild, and to live with dignity. That's what I've done, and that's what I hope you'll do too." The audience erupted into applause, many moved to tears by her words. Glory's daughter beamed with pride, clutching her mother's hand tightly. In that moment, Glory realized she had truly found her purpose, not just as a businesswoman, but as a voice for those who felt voiceless. As for Peter, he faded into obscurity. Without the church's support, he struggled to find his footing. He occasionally appeared at small gatherings, trying to preach, but his words no longer carried the weight they once did. People saw through him now, and the respect he had once commanded was gone. Glory didn't dwell on Peter's downfall. Her focus was on her daughter and her thriving business. She had learned to forgive easily, not for Peter's sake, but for her own peace of mind. She was no longer the naive girl who had married him believing love and faith would be enough. She was a woman who had faced the worst and emerged stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever. Years later, when her daughter asked about her father, Glory smiled gently and said, "He was a part of my journey, but not my destination. We all have lessons to learn in this life, and I'm grateful for what those lessons taught me." With that, she turned back to the life she had built, a life of purpose, joy, and freedom. And for the first time in a long time, she felt truly at peace.